Okay, interesting. Today is just for everybody to know, I'm looking at the live streaming. It's still working on. Yes, it's getting on to YouTube. So we are really on air now. So this is being live streamed. Today is just for everybody to know, I'm looking at the live streaming. It's still working on. Yeah. And so let me start the session. All right. I think Tuesday, everybody is excited. Tuesday. All right. So this event is being recorded. Thank you for everybody who are joining us live on the webinar. Um, and good morning here in New York City. And actually, our guests are both from France, and then bonsoir over there in France. And in a bit, we are going to have a very interactive dialogue about the developer forum. So hello, everyone. Good morning again. I am Rachel Yeager, the head of W3C chapter in New York Metropolitan and executive director of WebInnovationX think tank for digital transformation. The theme of WebInnovationX Week for 2020 is Back to the Future, thinking strategically about web innovation and what we can change now. So this developer forum is where the W3C New York Metro chapter engages developers in technical discussions on emerging web platforms, technology standards, and use cases. In today's forum, we are honored to have invited two very special person that I know and really admire, and very honored that that they can join us from France. Uh, and of course, please unmute yourself when I introduce Marie-Claire Fogg, who is the head of the training at World Wide Web Consortium. Hi, Marie-Claire.
Hello.
Yeah, hi. So nice to have you. And
Thank you
then,
very much.
thank you. And Dominic Hazel Masiu, and he is the web developer for standardization of technologies at the World Wide Web Consortium. So Dominic, happy to see you here. And Dominic really come with a wealth of experience with World Wide Web Consortium. So I really can't wait to have this dialogue with him, with all the attendees here. The format of this forum is a presentation style from my two distinguished guests from the World Wide Web Consortium, and also a discussion. The audience, feel free to look at the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. Please click on it if you have any questions. I'll be monitoring as we speak. We can also go through all unanswered questions at the end of the session. So feel free to ask any questions. If you are joining from the live stream from YouTube, you can also put your questions in the chat box. And someone actually will be monitoring those questions if you have any questions, and I go to the chat box as well. Just to share with you, today is still under the pandemic period. I know that this is a period that is very unusual for all of us. I just want to share with everybody that for me is that I'm doing this Zoom meeting just with my laptop, and there's a lot of windows popping up, and it's sometimes difficult for me to see all the windows. But I bet you that my fingers will be fast enough to capture all the questions. So I really encourage a very interactive dialogue here. All right, so we shall now start the developer forum. And I just ask my guests to unmute yourself, right, when you're speaking. So I want to start the forum by asking Marie and Dominic to introduce yourself.
So I guess I'll start
Marie-Claire?
first. Thank you, Rachel, for inviting us in New York, even though we're not really there. So, Marie-Claire Fogg, I'm in charge of the training activities at W3C. I've done that since 2011. I'm also part of the W3C developer relations team with Dominique. And together we are making sure that we cater for web developers worldwide. We organize dev meetups, physical ones when we can. And we also do a lot of promotion of our actions through our Twitter, which is W3C Devs. But Dominique will talk about that a little bit later. I have a PhD in computer graphics and parallel processing, but I'm here having fun doing web stuff and being myself a web developer.
That's amazing, and thanks for sharing this. I learned so much new things about you today. I know Marie-Claire for so long, so it's wonderful to hear all these accomplishments you have. Thank you for sharing. I also want to share with the audience that I make Marie-Claire work in the morning because I asked her to put all the important URL that she's going to share in a bit later in the chat. So the attendees, if you can go to the chat session, you can see a few very important links that she'll be sharing later. So Marika, thank you. Sorry I couldn't treat you to petit déjeuner here. So I make you work so hard in our New York morning time. So thank you.
Thank you.
So next thank you. Yeah. So next I want to invite Dominic to introduce yourself.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Rachel, for inviting Marie-Claire and I to this event. So yeah, my name is Dominique Azel-Massieu, which most of the world cannot pronounce. So most people call me Dom, which you're all cordially invited to do as well. I've been in WCC for longer than I care to admit, but I've had quite a bit of fun, including with my work with Marie-Claire, indeed, on our developer relationship efforts. Beyond catering to developers' needs, I've also been involved in WCC work on real-time communication. We have this technology called WebRTC, which I'll hopefully be able to share a bit more about later during this event. I've also been involved in a work around what we call the immersive web, which is basically the ability to run augmented and virtual reality technology right inside the browser. So in terms of back into the future, I think the possibilities that the immersive webs open, especially at the time where we have to be physically distant, I think these possibilities are really tantalizing. More recently, I've been involved in an event we ran virtually again a few weeks ago around the role of machine learning in web browsers, understanding how we can make use of all the cool innovation that is happening through machine learning, how we can make sure that web browsers become a great platform for this type of usage. And I guess that's probably a good enough summary of what I've been up to recently in WCC.
Yeah, there's a lot, and I've seen many presentations from Dominic. I like to call you Dominic, and so he really have so much on his plate. So really, thank you for taking the time also to share with us all this important information. In fact, actually, W3C won a couple of Emmy Award, right? Emmy Award for technical award with all these technologies that some of the technologies that you mentioned, right? Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, I think this is a recognition that the work we do in the LCC. So maybe I should say what is the work we do in the LCC, because not everyone might be familiar with it. So the LCC is the World Wide Web Consortium, and what we do is building standards And when you present it that way, standards, it sounds a bit boring. Standard is, about getting things on paper that everybody agreed upon. But the key thing about WCC standard is that they are about what we call the open web platform. That is anything that you can run inside your browser. And that makes them a bit magical. I mean, the reason Marie-Claire and I and many others have stuck around in WCC for so long is that the impact of this work is really staggering. Any of these technologies that we manage to build agreement on gets deployed to 4 billion devices and users over the world, which means that they change the world. Like something that impacts 4 billion people is something that changes the way the world works. And the Emmy Awards are, I guess, one of the illustration of this. The fact that nowadays anyone can watch pretty much any movie, any series, any show they like from within their web browser, whether they are on a desktop, on a mobile phone. We don't even think about it. It's so obvious. Of course I can, but that's something that required a lot of discussion, a lot of agreement, a lot of passion. And overall, I think that beyond the maybe dreary word of standard, there is a lot of passion, a lot of enthusiasm about building this common platform for the world, which is really what I think motivates most of us doing the work in WCC.
Just to share with thank you, Dominic. So just to share with the audience, just now before we started the session, we were discussing how to make ourselves look more beautiful, like on real time, right? In video communication. So I really think that we should have a standard, to do that. So just aside, all right. So something that in my imagination, in my fantasy, that should be a standard. So anyway, that's another discussion. I want to now come back to this the W3C developer relations. I think it's very important. Would you want to share what W3C is working on and how this has been evolving?
Yes, I'd be happy to. I have a few slides. Marie, if you can put the link on the chat, I think that can help other people follow along. So yeah, as I mentioned, the LCC is a standards organization, and you might say, why do you do developer relations in a standards organization? And so I would like to take just a few minutes maybe to explain why we're doing it, and if you're interested, how you might get involved in that work we're trying to push. So first, why? Why does the LCC needs a developer? So as I said, I've been in WCC for quite some time, and I've seen both success and failures. And when we see standards deployed to 4 billion devices, it's a huge success, a huge impact, as I described. But when we spend years discussing a lot of nitty-gritty details about how this or that technology should work, and in the end, it doesn't get used because it doesn't fulfill what was actually needed, or it's too hard to use, too hard to understand, then there were a lot of efforts wasted, a lot of opportunities wasted. And from experience, any of you that has done design or development will know that the best way to avoid mistargeting your work, mistargeting your efforts, is to make sure to work with the people that will be using your work. And in our case, the technologies we develop, all these APIs, these CSS features, and so on, all of these are aimed to be used by developers and designers out there. And so the reason why WCC actively works towards getting developer involved is that we do want to hear from developers, designers about which technologies are missing, about the technologies that we are developing. Are they on target? Are they addressing the right use cases the right way? Are they approachable? Are they too hard? So that's the motivation for WCC. We want to create the right technology so that they have the right impact. And for that, we strongly believe we need to get developers and designers involved. And it's not just WCC trying to get efforts from developers. We're also trying to make sure that we accompany how developers make use of these technologies we developed. So the first thing to know, if you're not aware, all of our specification work happens completely in the open, in public. You can follow all the discussions that are behind all the decisions that are appearing in our standards, and all of it happened on GitHub. So if you're a developer, it's likely you've already had experience interacting with GitHub, and in particular, you might be familiar how to submit issues, maybe even familiar with how to submit pull requests, which means that as a developer, you have all the tools that are needed to get directly involved in these discussions. Beyond that aspect, we have also a set of tools that we hope help developers adopt some of our technologies. You may be familiar with the validators work that are freely available to anyone. We have an HTML validator, a CSS validator, RSS feeds or atom feeds validator, and an internalization checker. All of these tools are aimed at helping you as developer, as designer, making sure you use the technologies as they were meant to be used, and pointing out mistakes that might be helpful to correct before deploying. As Marie-Claire will tell us in a few minutes, we also have a very rich program of MOOC courses, online training courses. So if you want to get started with a number of our technologies, we run this program, which gives you a certificate of completion at the end. And beyond that, we're also working with our ecosystem of partners on the platform. So WCC doesn't exist in isolation. We work with many organizations in the industry, including especially browser vendors, to make sure that the technology we build match what they want to ship. And one of the spaces where we do that is in our developer relationship effort. We work on the MDN documentation portal. If you're a developer, you might be familiar with MDN as the place to check for information on JavaScript, on CSS, and other APIs. And so we participate to the product advisory board of this MDN doc website to make sure there is a full alignment of the needs of the platform with its documentation. So that's what we provide. And why would you, as a developer, as a designer, get involved in these discussions? Well, the first thing is if you're doing something, if you have a passion for your craft, being able to control what your tools, what your toolkit enable, I think is something you probably care about. And in the end, all these technologies that get developed in WCC, they are meant to be used by you as developer, as designer. And so if you want to make sure that these tools that we are building actually match what you see as needed, we think that's probably the best opportunity to get that done. Doesn't mean that it is easy or quick or fast, but it's important. And if you don't, and if nobody does, if no developer gets our input, as I said, we are bound to make mistakes. And once we make these mistakes down the line, they will end up as a problem you need to fix, a workaround you need to put together, or an alternative you'll have to build. So getting the right thing done early on is saving you hopefully lots of time down the end. Likewise, if there is something we don't build at all because we don't see the need, we are not exposed to the use case, to the requirement, then that's a product that you won't be able to ship, a solution that you won't be able to provide. Another reason why getting involved is important is that, as you can guess, there are lots of ideas as to what should be possible in a web browser, but there is only so much that can be done. So getting a sense of what community needs, what kind of feature, what kind of momentum is there behind a specific need, is one of the key ways the prioritization of work happen. And in particular, if we see lots of passion, lots of involvement, lots of contribution on a topic, it's much more likely we will make progress on it than if it's something where we don't see any feedback or any reaction or any pull. And as I alluded to, it can be challenging to get involved in this discussion. It can be time consuming. I won't try to pretend that these are easy discussions to follow or to get involved to. Sometimes they can be pretty challenging, but that makes it a really fantastic learning experiences. I think once you've managed to go above this learning curve that can be steep, most people tend to stick around for quite some time because of all the great information you gather, all the great people you interact with. And whether you put this on your resume or you just enjoy the sheer joy of participating in these efforts, I think that's, for most people in the end, really the final motivation. That is, enjoying the work you do and the impact it can have. So if you were to be convinced to be involved, what is it that you can do to get involved? The first thing is probably tracking what's happening. As I said, one of the key things we need from developers is feedback and input on what we're working on and what we should be working on. So, of course, you can subscribe to the RSS feed of the WCC homepage. As Marie-Claire alluded to earlier, she and I maintain this Twitter feed, WCC Dev, where we try to curate a list of news particularly targeted at developers. You can also follow the @WCC Twitter channel for more general updates from WCC. We recently launched a channel on YouTube with all of the videos that get produced through our technical work. So again, a great way to figure out what gets discussed and what topics you might have input on. As I mentioned earlier, everything we do from the technical perspective happen on GitHub. So explore our GitHub repositories, file issues, submit pull requests as you see fit. We have also this very open program called community groups, which enable anyone, whether you're involved otherwise in WCC or not, to create a group around a specific topic, to gather a community of interest as a precursor, as an incubation to the real standardization work that might happen down the line. The idea here, again, as I said, the worst thing that we can do in WCC is waste lots of people's time and energy in doing the wrong thing. So most of the time, before doing any formal standardization work, we will start by doing what we call incubation of a standard, where we play with an idea before going into too much of the formal or nitty-gritty details discussion. And these tend to happen in these community groups, which again, anybody can create, and of course, anybody can join. So the link is on that slide. You can explore the hundreds of groups that exist today and that are exploring these many topics of interest. You're also more than welcome to get your employer join WCC as a member organization. I didn't go into much detail on this, but WCC operates through a membership mechanism where you have to be a part of a member organization to contribute to the formal standardization process. And so if you feel like you have something to contribute to this formal standardization process and your employer can benefit from it, that's absolutely something you should consider, help push internally. And me and my colleagues are more than happy to help in any of these discussions. I mentioned the developer tools we make available. They are all open source. And so not only are you invited to use them, but if you want to contribute in improving them, that would be very welcome as well. And finally, we have this huge open source project called Web Platform Test, which helps verify interoperability across browsers of the various technologies we build. And that, again, is completely open source, has a huge impact. I won't go into details because it's also a complex project, but if you're keen on helping advance specific features, it's a very potent tool to that end. And I guess that covers what I wanted to share with you on this today. Feel free to get in touch. I'm dom@wc.org. Don't call me Dom on Twitter. And as a Twitter feed I mentioned earlier with Marika and I at WCCDev.
That's pretty comprehensive, very nice rundown of what are available to the web developers community here. I'm just curious about do you know the number of community groups right now? I think it's more than 100, right? Is that how many are there?
It's probably more than 300 at this time. I mean, I don't want also to give too high a figure. Not all of them are as active as some others. But yes, there is a lot happening there. And in practice, it's, again, a place anyone can join and that can have a tremendous influence on future standards.
Yes, in fact, this is where I think I want to make sure that everybody here, whether you belong to the W3C member, if your organization is not a member of W3C, you can still participate by joining the community groups. This is what W3C is all about. And the W3C chapter in New York Metropolitan is also advocating that, is to make sure that we make it as open as possible for everybody to enjoy and to grow together. So I also want to point out that actually Marie-Claire has did write down a list of all this important information earlier. But she only directed to the panelists in the chat. So actually there's a section in the chat is panelists and attendees. So I actually copy what she said, right? And so those things that I have been sending to all the audience is actually from Marie-Claire and Dominic.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? I thought it was to everyone. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, there's one section, it's called panelists and attendees.
Indeed.
Yeah, you never know. It's always there's some new things, button to push, right? And so so I want to ask also is that in terms of some of this standards and also the work, how long usually, in terms of something to see in the browser, like how do you think the process usually work, or is there like a standard timing or time frame, and how the developers can expect what they are proposing to be materializing on the browser? Is this a fair question, or is there a typical life cycle, time frame that you can share, Dominic?
I think it's just a $1 billion question. Depending on the technologies, the time scale can be really, really different. And one thing I didn't say about the way we develop our standards, we really take a lot of lessons from the agility movements. That is, we take a really iterative approach where it's not that we design the standards and it gets implemented and then we get back to doing a new standard. The standard and the implementations are happening in parallel, one informing the other and vice versa. And so you start seeing features from a specification before it gets finalized. Sometimes either as an experimental feature in the browser, sometimes even as a fully available feature, depending on how advanced we are in our process. But even defining what the start and the end of a standard can be a challenge. I'll be talking a bit later about WebRTC. And we started work on WebRTC in 2012, which is 8 years ago. We are not done. We haven't published the WebRTC standard yet. It's nearly done, but it's not done yet. Yet everybody, the whole world, has been using WebRTC for quite some time. We are at this stage of the process where we're trying to remove as many of the interoperability challenges that has existed. And again, if you're a designer, a developer, you will know that there are always, sometimes big, sometimes small differences in how a given browser implement a given feature. So that's what we're trying to smooth out right now in WebRTC. But it's hard to say, like I can't say WebRTC took 8 years to standardize because a lot of it was available much earlier. Some features that are smaller in scope would go, much faster. Like you could probably get from idea to first implementation in the space of a year, but it's hard to say generically speaking.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's insightful. Marie-Claire, do you want to add anything about the web developer relations? Do you have any? Yeah.
You have a question, Rachel. Maybe it's about the community groups. Do you want to address it?
Yeah. Do you have do you want to comment on that? I mean, any question? Oh, there's a question. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. So the question is that what role do cybersecurity professionals play within the organization? I think the question is rather asking play with the W3C organization. Also, do you have a community for security professional as well? Definitely yes, right? So do you want to answer that question? Yeah, Marie-Claire?
Yes.
Or Dominic?
So there is I will just say that I pasted the list of community groups, and you can actually search for cybersecurity in it, and you get some results. We have the cyber controls ontology community group mainly, but otherwise we have the security and privacy activities in W3C. Dominique?
Okay.
Yeah, we have, so as Marie-Claire alluded, part of the formal standardization work that happens in WCC is ensuring that the standards we build have all the right aspects in terms of accessibility, in terms of access for people with disabilities, internationalization, making sure our technology works worldwide, but also a very strong focus on security and privacy, and for which we have groups whose role is to review other specifications and analyze whether they do match the patterns that we know are good or do not match the patterns we know are bad. We also have the Web Application Security Working Group, whose work is focused on providing features that can be used to strengthen application security, web application security. So if you're in the field, things like content security policy or permissions policy are developed in that group. So yeah, there are a few groups in the formal standardization sphere beyond the community groups themselves where cybersecurity is a very important topic. And if you're willing to help in terms of providing these reviews from a security perspective, we are always looking for expertise there. So to get in touch.
Yeah. This is when you join Giovanni, and also to Giovanni who asked the question. And I just want to make sure that I can explain a bit the whole process, how to sign on. You can go to the link that Marie-Claire just provided, which is the community group link. And when you click on it, you can see tons of community groups available, already established. So you can do two things. One is that you can join one of the existing community groups in cybersecurity related. You can just search through all the groups. I'm sharing you how I did it, all right, myself. You can search through all the groups and can start joining. You do need to, need to sign up so that we know who you are. And it's just as simple as having your name, your email address, and knowing who you are. all right? And once you sign up, you can join as many groups, community groups as you can. You can also do another thing is that you can propose a new idea, right? A new concept that you want the community group to work on. And then W3C will be helping also to see whether there's enough interest, right? In that new proposal that you want to set up as a group. And of course, if you are a member company, your organization is a member company of W3C, then you can actually, from the community group, some of the concepts can move on to actual working group, which is actually looking into more of the standards process, right? Making it standards. But all this thing, as I said it, I hope I'm explaining it correctly. So my dear friends, Dom and also Marie-Claire, please interrupt me if I say anything that is not correct here. But I do think that also important thing to consider for the developers, and we did not have, I did not personally invite product managers here, but if you are developers and you're working in a product team and you're working in cool and exciting new products, there's some consideration that you can tap on to W3C in this, because you know that your product may need some support in terms of the standards, the web standards, and that's when you can also should consider joining some of these groups to make sure that what you want to happen in the web browser and the web standards can be materialized, right, when you're building your new product. So that is, I think that there's also many members who are in W3C who are in that capacity. So I often think that there is big tech, there's all the big tech companies, of course, are members of W3C, but there's also very innovative players who are members in W3C, and so are academia. I think that there are academic organizations who are also in W3C. So it's a good melange, it's a good mix of different needs here. So it's truly a web developer community. So I saw another question, right? First, before if Giovanni, if you want to follow up with more of that question, feel free to ask a follow-up question on that. There's another question here, so I'm just there are actually a few questions here. One is that Elton is asking a question to Dom, and he put it in the chat. So for everybody to know, you can put in the Q&A, but since everybody loves the chat, and maybe it's me who is the culprit because I started, copying all this thing onto the chat. So sorry about that. But you can put your question in the Q&A, but I'm reading off from the chat. Elton is asking Dominic that you mentioned something about the discussion that go on behind the movie, easily stream on the open web platform or web browser. Can you give some insights on the questions we should pay attention behind streaming movies or animation online? So the question is about how what we should pay attention to behind the streaming movie, what needs to pay attention to, and also in this question also animation.
Yeah, I'm not too sure how to address the animation question without more specifics, but I can give some insight about how streaming movies work with our technologies today, which is one of the reasons we indeed received an Emmy Award a few years ago. So when you stream a movie, and the basic capability of downloading a movie is something that doesn't require much. I mean, you just get bytes from a file and you display them. But when you speak about streaming, the key thing is enabling the stream of bytes to adapt to the network connectivity. So depending on the resolution of the screen you're watching the movie in, and depending on the amount of network bandwidth available to stream the bytes, you will want to get different resolutions of the movie you're watching. And so there is a process called adaptive streaming, which is exactly about that, making sure that for a given movie player can pick the right resolution of the movie and do that in a dynamic fashion, so that when your network connectivity evolves over time, you always get the best possible experience out of your environment. And so this was made possible by a technology called media source extension, which basically enables to put together all these various resolutions of a movie over time and keep a smooth experience with as little buffering as possible. And on top of that, a few years later was added another technology called encrypted media extensions, which enables bringing digital right management on top of these streamings, which at least for some of this use case was determined to be necessary. And that's what's available today, but there is still a lot of discussion about potential improvement in this space, for instance, to cater for streaming not just 2D movies, but immersive experiences, to cater for even lower latency. So when we talk about streaming movie, it can be video on demand, but it can also be live streaming, as we are doing right now over YouTube. But when you do live streaming, usually there is a non-insignificant amount of latency between the source and the live stream. If you were there at the very start when Rachel started the stream, you could hear maybe 10 seconds of delay between the streamed audio and the live audio. And we have a bunch of technologies that are in development that we think can help reduce that latency, which, for instance, if you're watching a soccer match, which people in Europe and maybe most of the rest of the world outside the US would do, it's very frustrating if you hear that a goal was just put in, whereas if you're watching the internet stream, you're only going to see it 20 seconds later. So we have, for instance, this technology called web transport, which we think will help significantly reduce some of these latency challenges.
In USA, we have the baseball. So when you turn on the radio and the TV.
But it is so slow.
Well, yeah, but we can say same thing about soccer also, right? It's only the exciting part, only that minute. Okay, but
fair enough.
Okay, that is out of my league. I don't confess to be an expert in baseball or soccer, so I think I better keep quiet about that subject. Coming back to, I think I just want to make sure animation, I think, is also is kind of like the same streaming format. So it's the answer that Dominic have provided. It applies to animation, anything that is streaming, right? Video, right? Correct? Yeah.
So for animation, we have other approaches. So when you stream a movie, you stream something that is hard coded in terms of pixels.
Yeah.
For animations, the preferred way usually will be to use a more so-called declarative approach, where instead of describing pixels that moves, you describe how the shapes need to evolve so that they can be scaled up and down. So for instance, we have this graphic technology called SVG, which lets you describe graphics in a way that can be easily scaled up and down and can be also animated. And on top of that, we also have CSS, so the styled language for the web, that can be used to animate parts of a web page. And still on top of that, an API called Web Animation API that helps, for instance, synchronize what would happen in a CSS animation or an SVG animation with what's happening in a streaming movie, for instance. So they're connected, but they tend to use very different approaches for readability in particular.
That's so interesting. I learned something from you today. And thanks for the excellent question. We can always follow
If I,
up with more. Yeah, Marie-Claire, you want to? Yeah.
yes, and if you want to learn more about HTML animations, we have also a course dedicated to part of that, which is the HTML5 apps and games course for more for advanced people.
Okay, great. So please see on the chat for all these resources as we talk about them. And I appreciate Karen Myers, who is the business leader for North America. She also, I would say for the Americas, excuse me, Karen. And she kindly has put in a lot of good links in the chat. So she is like monitoring us. Thank you, Karen. Thank you for help. And so, the audience, please look at the list of wonderful resources. I'm going to paste all these resources also onto the YouTube channel later, and also on our website. All right. So don't worry that you lose all this information, but definitely can copy and paste and download the chat text at this session. All right. Um, I want to now move on to the another question by Elizabeth. I'm seeing that. So Elizabeth, thanks for joining us, and I know that you are working on web accessibility. So thank you for joining us. And her question is this: are there plans to begin discussions, work on documentation that addresses the different accessibility needs for users of refreshable braille displays, similar to the newer work. Sorry, you can see that I'm working. Please excuse me. I'm reading in a very incoherent way because my screen is small. So I'm just trying to read correctly. Similar to the newer work that is being done to support individuals with cognitive disabilities, I work with an individual that uses JAWS, JAWS, and a refreshable braille display, and she has enlightened me that what is accessible for JAWS is not inherently accessible for braille. Do you want to comment on that,
So I
Marie-Claire?
won't give.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
So
please go ahead.
sorry, Dominique. Yes, I just wanted to maybe point Elizabeth to the set of resources done by the Web Accessibility Initiative. Is this something that your colleague knows about? We we also have the newest W3C MOOC is about web accessibility, and this it's really for it's really an introduction to web accessibility. And here it's really to help learners understand how people with disabilities use different assistive technologies. So you might find some answers in the course. But if you want, we're happy to. Oh, she knows all of the WCAGs. Okay. So we if you want to, we can have her reach out to the Web Accessibility Initiative team.
Yes, I am aware of a few invited experts also to W3C that are really into connective accessibility. I think that is an excellent question. And also there's a wealth of important information that Elizabeth, you will be very interested in. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to not only reshare and all this information from Marie Claire and also Dominic, but also I will get in touch with you after this webinar, Elizabeth, to get in touch with important people or critical information that you need to know in this era. So this is a very interesting topic, cognitive accessibility, that is became more and more prominent even during this period of pandemic. Even I myself are questioning about that, even though I'm not an expert in that, because of the amount of information that we are seeing and how to be inclusive of everybody. Yeah. Well, I hope I kind of addressed that. All right. I think that this is a huge topic and also it's evolving, and there are in fact a lot of good information. So I will get in touch with you and share with you more. All right, after this webinar.
So if I
Dominic,
may
you want to add
just,
on?
yeah. So on the specific topic of the braille, the refreshable braille display, I mean, I don't know the answer to that question, which is a great one, I think. In particular, there is very active work towards the third version of WCAG, which Elizabeth apparently knows already well, I guess in its 2.1 or 2.2 version. And so it's a very timely moment to bring up requirements that the group may not be aware of. I mean, if the current version of WCAG doesn't address refreshable braille displays, then it's probably very important to bring that up now, so that as the group develops the updated guidelines, it takes into account the specificities of those displays. And so, yeah, Elizabeth, I would very strongly encourage you to get involved into these discussions if you have the bandwidth for it, because again, that's the way we make sure we address the needs that emerge from the world, really. So.
Excellent questions. I think that these are evolving needs that we are seeing also. And definitely, I think that with the pandemic also, it have drawn attention to this, especially also to web accessibility. I'm questioning a lot about that myself, even though I'm not an expert in this era. So I think that definitely this is a great question to follow up with you. Thank you. Thank you for the question, Elizabeth. So we are going to move on a bit more, and please point the questions. Do not hesitate to ask questions, right, from the audience. So I want to move on to the questions about the recent activities that the famous TPAC, right? And the TPAC sounds like, you know, a camp, like with fire, you know, campfire. Whenever I think about the word TPAC, but of course TPAC is TPAC. And I want to ask Dominic and Marie-Claire to share, and maybe start with you, Dominic. What are some of the things that the recent events, especially the TPAC that just recently is over, and what is TPAC is about, and what is the learning, and what you got from it, and for the audience.
Yeah, so let me first explain what TPAC is. I will spare you the actual meaning of the acronym, which isn't all that interesting. But TPAC usually is a 1 week during the year where a lot of the WCC worldwide community gets together physically in a single place. Last year in 2019, which sounds like a century ago, we were together in Japan, in Fukuoka. And this is a week where many of the WCC groups which develop the standards we needed to get together, meet, and make progress on their various specifications. And in addition to these meetings about well-defined topics, we also usually have 1 day of the week, which we run as an unconference, where basically anyone can propose a session on any topic. And this is like a big festival of ideas and discussions, exhausting, but also exhilarating. Of course, in 2020, a physical event, getting people from all over the world in a single place was neither an option nor desirable. So we ran this as a virtual event. So we ran our working group meetings as Zoom teleconferences, just like we are today. But we also replicated this unconference format. Instead of having it one day, we split it throughout the week so that people from all over the world could join it at a somewhat reasonable time. It was 7 a.m. for people on the West Coast. It was 11 a.m. for people in Japan, 11 p.m. For people in Japan. It was pretty good for the rest of us on the East Coast and in Europe. But lots of people showed up and contributed to the discussions. We had no less than, I think, 57 sessions that ran throughout the week, again, with topics proposed by the community, ranging from how do we bring ethics to the way we develop technologies, down to how to ensure that when we bring technology on the web, they do the right management of memory so that we don't end up spending lots of our performance doing memory copies. So a very large spectrum of topics, some a bit meta, some very technical. But I think overall, a very rich experience for all the participants. One thing that we did this year, because we were virtual, was to open this unconference to anyone in the world. So it was also an even more open event than usual. And many of these sessions, not all of them, but many of these sessions were at least in part recorded. So if you go to the link that Marie-Claire put earlier on the chat, you'll find links to the video recording of the presentations that were made during these sessions. And again, a good way to get a feeling of the kind of discussions that happen in the LCC. You're muted, Rachel.
Yeah, actually, the quote of the year is "You are muted," right? Everybody know that, right? Thank you. It's unavoidable sometimes. Now, I think that it's important to know for the TPAC, for the last one is open, and I think that again, there's a lot of opportunities to participate in that openness. So again, I just want to emphasize that point. This is what W3C is about, and also W3C chapter in New York Metropolitan will advocate is to promote this openness among us. So this is something I strongly personally believe in, and also I know that W3C is really working very hard on this, as you can see from the answers from our distinguished panel here. So I want to move on to, before I move on, Marie-Claire, do you want to add on anything on the TPAC and also recent activities that you want to share?
So I will just really emphasize on the fact that we have. So you could search through the sessions available, the breakout sessions, and we have minutes were recorded sometimes, but also there are some videos of those sessions, and we are publishing them on the YouTube channel that Dominique alluded earlier. So yeah, look, search for your keywords on this page. You might find a session of interest.
Very good. Yeah. I also want to ask about the recent the machine learning, right? The workshop, right? That happens, I think, about less than 2 months ago. If there's anything to share, I know that it's a sponsored event from one of the members and sponsored in terms of like sponsoring that event in terms of promoting the understanding of machine learning on the web. Do you want any one of you want to comment on that?
Yeah, so let me maybe explain what these workshops are, and then I'll explain exactly what we did for this particular one. So as I said, part of our mission in WCC is to make sure that we provide the right tools for developers and designers to deploy their services and applications in web browsers. And unless you've been under a rock for the past 3 or 4 years, you'll know that one of the important tools that many developers and designers are looking forward to use in their services is AI and machine learning. And so the way we surface some of the needs, some of the challenges that we think the web needs to tackle is through these workshops, which are, again, events that are open to anyone that has something worth sharing on the topic. Usually, again, these are physical events, but this year, again, we did our workshops virtually, and I was in particular organizing this virtual workshop on the role of machine learning technologies in web browsers. And the way this workshop worked was we reached out to a number of experts on the topic of machine learning in web browsers. And they delivered a total of 34 presentations that we published as pre-recorded input for workshop participants. And all these presentations are completely available on the link I pasted up there. And after these presentations were watched and digested by participants, we ran a series of 4 live sessions of 90 minutes where we discussed all these inputs that we had gathered and tried to define the roadmap of what it will mean to make sure machine learning comes to the web. Some of the outcome of these discussions is we've identified a proposed API called Web Neural Network that we think is likely to provide the right set of primitives, low building bricks for developers to build their own machine learning applications. And if we provide this as a built-in feature in web browsers, it means it will run very fast, which is very critical, in particular, for instance, if you're doing media processing. Rachel, you were alluding earlier to the need of having a beautifying filter in real-time communication. This could be done with a machine learning approach where you train a model to let them know what beautifying means, and then you run it live on your video streams. And so to do that live on a video stream, which is, as you can imagine, a lot of data that needs to be processed very fast, you need to reach a very high level of performance, which was one of the major focus of the workshop. But again, we discussed the impact of machine learning on accessibility, lots of good. Of course, if you can do automatic image recognition, speech transcription, that has positive impact, but also lots of risk. If you know a bit about machine learning, there are bias that can be embodied in some of these models, which means that some of these models won't work for people with disabilities or people with not the mainstream skin color that was used to train the model. So we also discussed how we can identify this bias, how we can flag them if necessary, what's the role of the web in improving the ecosystem of providing and using this machine learning model. So yeah, I think a lot of excitement on the topic. We understand that not all of it is exciting. There's some risk associated with it, but we feel that there is a lot of opportunities to make it possible, again, to deploy all the power that comes with these advances in machine learning to the billions of people that use the web on a daily basis.
Thank you, Dom, for this answer. I'm looking at the time. I do know that we have ran over, but it's so rare to get this Marie Claire and Dom together here with me and with all of you here. So I understand if you need to run off for the the attendees, please do so. This is all recorded and is in the YouTube channel. You can come back and watch it. But we'll continue on. I'm selfishly asking Dom and Marie Claire to stay back a bit more. We will not go beyond 11:30 a.m. here, all right? Because I know that you still got so much more to share, and I just want to pick on your brain here, all right? Thank you for your time. So I want to switch a bit back to Marie Claire a bit more on the web accessibility training, and then I want to come back to Dom about the WebRTC. And I really should also ask you to mention about the immersive web, because Thursday we have MedTech, which is the Marketing and Advertisement Technology Symposium X on Thursday, which is talking about all this marketing and advertising technology. Why I mentioned that, because immersive web, there's so many use of it, but one area is definitely is penetrating into this era in the interactivity, and of course advertising is one of the area I can see anybody in marketing and advertising is already talking about it here a lot about immersive web. So I would like Dom to shed a bit light on that. So let me come back to Marie Claire. If you have more to share about what about the web accessibility training, and I can see now there are more questions coming in. So I please start sharing what is the training is, and then I will moderate the question. Yeah.
Yes, so as you might know, so you understood that the first the main business, so to say, of WFC is to develop web standards. But back in 2015, we felt that people would benefit from learning web technologies directly from WFC. So we develop web standard and guidelines. I'm referring to the web accessibility guidelines typically. So it's so we have this WFCX program. You can reach out. You can look at what we do on wfcx.org. So we have 6 courses, and 5 are dedicated to front-end web development. And this package of courses is available for all entry levels. We have for beginners, intermediate, and experts. So they help you get some web programming skills and around the languages, which are the programming languages, which are HTML5, CSS, and JavaScript. Dominique said it earlier, but with these MOOCs, it's possible to get a certificate, a professional certificate. And this is also something which is very trendy these days now, especially during the pandemic. You can highlight that on your resume, your LinkedIn profile, and more. So one of our latest course was launched end of January 2020, and it's about web accessibility. It's really an introduction course which gives you which makes you aware of what kind of disabilities people have and how they use different assistive technologies. You can also, which is very important, learn about business benefits of web accessibility and where to find WFC resources, something I've pasted earlier. So it's really important to make people aware that they can create websites and applications with accessibility in mind. right at the beginning, meaning that you are not going to exclude people from using products, services, whatever. So I really encourage people to follow this course and the other ones as well.
So Marie-Claire, thank you for all the information, right? And the technologies has changed so much that information is just, I believe W3C is also trying to keep up with the pace of the changes. And there was an article in New York Times that published recently about people with disabilities and how the web has provided this platform for allowing them to work more and to really to be, how to say, interact more with the rest of either at work or in all aspects of life. So the web is a very powerful tool for anybody with disabilities, but yet there are things that needs to be improved, and W3C is really working very hard on that with all the web developers that who are contributing, because this is this is like a community work, right? So thank you, Elizabeth, who alerted to us privately through the chat about some information that may be conflicting or whatever. And thank you so much, and we will look into that also and feedback to W3C. And I know Dom has already answered to that. So thank you again, Elizabeth, for pointing that out. And so, Marie-Claire, I think that those information that you mentioned are so important. The training, I know W3C has done an excellent job in trying to reach out to the web accessibility community and provide the kind of information and training. The training has been very excellent on that. And W3C chapter in New York Metropolitan wants to really add on to that in terms of providing the kind of business awareness and how to rather like the application perspective, and also want to join force in making sure the business community here, as you can see, the questions here are very interested in this area. There are much interest in this area that we will definitely want to contribute in that. So thank you for all that information that you provided. I would like to move on now to back to the WebRTC, and also I know that Dom, you may have some presentation even to show us. I think that we still got a bit of time before 11:30. Sorry, I've changed the time now, the webinar. So if you want to present that, we can still have that. I also want to also go on the immersive web, and I put you on the spot there, but I know that it's natural to you because you are working on that area. So when you show the WebRTC, and maybe you can also follow up with the immersive web. I think anything augmented reality now is really now something really popular, right? And virtual reality is also very is also catching up, and a lot of like specific industries are actually looking into virtual reality more than others. But augmented reality is fun, right? Everybody wants to see that, right? So maybe you can comment on that. Yeah, Dominic.
Yeah, I'll do my best. I'll go quickly through the slides because otherwise we'll be blowing up our time. So let me introduce quickly what WebRTC is, why it
Before
matters.
we go on, Dominic, there's no time restriction. Yeah, in a virtual world. So sorry, I'm being very selfish. I want to pick on your brain. This is a rare chance for you to address our community here. So please do not rush. All right. Okay.
Okay. Anyway, I'll probably keep it short in any case, so that we also have time on immersive web. So first, what is WebRTC? WebRTC stands for Web Real-Time Communications. And basically, as I've alluded to before, it's a set of technologies we've been working on for quite some time, And it enables browser to serve as endpoint for audio video communication. So just as we are using Zoom today to chat over the Atlantic Ocean, you can bring a link to your web browser, click on it, and here you are talking with another person or a group of person across the world. And this is all made possible by this set of technologies, WebRTC. It's a combination of JavaScript APIs available in browsers that were standardized in WCC and a set of network protocols defined in this other organization called IETF, the Internet Engineering Task Force. And they work together by making it, again, possible to bring a link and start a conversation without further ado, going through firewalls as needed, bringing screen sharing, bringing various media and audio capabilities as seamlessly as possible. And one thing, the availability of these technologies, I think, has changed for the web, is that it used to be $1 billion investment if you wanted to do something like having a video conference set up. And now it's something that as a developer, you put together a few libraries in your project, and you can connect people like that. It's no longer that video conferencing has to be a product. It can be a feature of your product or your solution. It changes the landscape of how you use real-time communication. It's no longer has to be the focus. It can be just an add-on to another product. WebRTC, as I said, we've been working on it for a long time. And the good news is that it's nowadays basically available anywhere on any browser. If you skip maybe Internet Explorer, which hasn't been updated in a long time, but otherwise any browser running in a modern phone or computer will have WebRTC out of the box. So you don't even have to think whether the person you're contacting has a feature or not. The vast majority of the world, you can maybe see the 93% that this can I use screenshot shows. 93% of users out there have WebRTC available out of the box. And when I say this is, and working in WCC is about having an impact, I call this having an impact, bringing that kind of capabilities to 4 billion people at the, just outside of a link is amazing. We don't always realize that the web is magic, but it is magical. And it was magical before 2020, but for better or for worse, 2020 had made it more than magical. It had made it critical. We loved meeting together physically, but in a time of a pandemic, being able to continue to meet, create, discuss, invent the future together without being physically together has been critically important. People have relied on RTC for sport events, for political conventions, for remote theater plays, for remote art exhibitions, for TV shows. And that's not even mentioning the use of remote health, telemedicine, remote education. All of these critical operations of for everyday world has been disrupted, but would have been disrupted so much more if we hadn't had this technical platform to enable any kind of real-time communication deployment. And so to me, this has shown that beyond the technical aspect, I think WebRTC has really brought this sense of a shared presence to the web. It's no longer that you're checking a web page, checking this or that information, the web has become a platform where you can be together. And again, this year more than any other, this has been really important, but I think this is also paving the way for the web to become an even better platform for being together. And some of the improvements that we know are needed for making that vision true are exactly what we are currently discussing in the WebRTC working group in the WCC, where these technologies are being defined. And I'm offering to go through a few of these evolutions maybe quickly, because some of them are pretty technical, to give you a sense of where we see this sense of shared presence is evolving. So the first thing we're tackling is making sure that WebRTC can cater to many different devices and network situations. If you have a big computer or a low-end smartphone, the experience of doing real-time communication has to adapt to your circumstances. And there are a number of technical barriers that we are lifting. The same way I described the need to adapt video streaming earlier to various network conditions. WebRTC has already a lot of it, but we have a number of improvements, in particular a technology called scalable video coding that will make doing WebRTC across this diversity of devices even better in terms of performance, smoothness, and user experience. Because WebRTC is no longer, just something you do from here and there in a few circumstances, but has become key to so many different types of interactions. The need to make the WebRTC experience as secure, as confidential, as intimate as possible, I think is pushing some fast progress in this space. WebRTC has already a lot of built-in security, encryption, and so on. But in the context of group teleconferences, such as the one that we are doing, there are improvements to make sure that the teleconferencing system itself cannot become part of the conversation. If you want to make sure that your conversation is completely outside of the view of the teleconferencing system, you need a way to share the encryption keys to make this possible. And that's another space where we are making fast progress. One space where we're also very much looking for input on use cases and priorities, defining exactly how the keys get shared, who gets to get access to what. We need to have the right set of use cases. So if you're in this space, we're very much looking for your input. We talked about immersiveness before, and even without mentioning yet the immersive web, the fact that Rachel is in front of the beautiful Statue of Liberty today is because she's using this way of immersing her image in the environment she wants. As doing this remote communication becomes a new normal, it has bad aspects, but it has also plenty of good aspects. And part of it is making sure that we don't have to be just where we are. We can be, in front of a volcano, in front of the Statue of the Liberty, or anywhere, because of the power of the digital ecosystem. And that's another aspect where we are investing in WebRTC, making sure that all the goodness that comes out of, for instance, the machine learning algorithms I mentioned before can be applied to video conferencing. And in general, we think that there are plenty of opportunities to make all these real-time communications more seamless. We've been doing way too much teleconferencing, all of us, for the past years. How many times have we heard you're muted? How many times have we heard dogs barking and keyboards being typed on and so on? All of this should be of the past. We can suppress that noise. We can and we should. we need the technical bricks to make this possible. Again, all of the machine learning work I alluded to here has a lot to play. We can improve the way speech gets transcribed. We can improve the way people that are hard of hearing or deaf participate to this virtual ecosystem. We can help the fact that not everybody speaks the same language. We can overcome that. The Tower of Babel can be something of the past if we do our job right. There is lots that can be done. Not everything has to be done. I mean, there are some discussions around the role of emotion analysis done either on your video or on your voice. Whether that should be done is probably something that needs to be discussed. And so there may be also barriers or ways to expose some of this risk in that space. But we know that this is a potential of innovation that is absolutely enormous. We have lots of folks making this happen. I mean, maybe I didn't mention this strongly enough before, but the work that is happening in the LCC is not done by Marie-Claire or I. I mean, we do some of the work, but most of the work gets done by the WCC member organizations. As Rachel mentioned, a lot of the big tech names are involved in WCC in general and in WebRTC in particular. We had the pleasure to recently welcome Zoom, whose product we're using today to WCC, and we very much hope that their input will help evolve WebRTC also towards an even better technical platform. I think I'll stop there if we want to have a bit of time to talk about immersive web.
But maybe while you're changing the slide, I'd like to request technology standard to filter noise from husband asking me to cook. You know? If we can do that, because Monday evening I teach my MBA class, and my husband will be like rushing me, when are we eating? So please, put that as a use case. Thank you.
I'll add that to our work plan.
So, Dominic, would you do you want to talk a bit? I know that I put you on the spot, but it's such a fascinating era in the immersive web. How do you see some of the exciting things that the web community, the developers, should be aware and can start participating? Yeah.
Yeah, so immersive web, as I described earlier, is this notion that we can use web browsers to distribute and deploy augmented and virtual reality applications and services. Today, if you're going to deploy a virtual reality service, you need to build a native app, you need to adapt it to various headsets, various operating systems, various SDKs. And that's not a great experience, neither for the developer nor for the user, because many apps will be specific to a specific hardware. If we really want to build that vision of this immersiveness being the future of computer interactions, then we felt that the web was a critical platform to adopt this technology. And so we put together this immersive web initiative that is developing a technology called WebXR, which basically provides, again, the building blocks so that you can build a web page that will either turn itself into a 3D environment when using, for instance, a virtual reality headset, or if you're using augmented reality, for instance, on a phone, it would turn what appears on the screen as like a virtual playground where you can add virtual assets completely seamlessly. They remain there if you turn around. And again, all of that just at the end of a link. You don't have to go through an app store, go through various hoops to deploy this. You just have to ask the person to click on the link, and if the hardware have the right support, then it will just do the right thing. And even if they don't have the right hardware, that's one of the beauty of the web. We can fall back on a 2D rendition of the same experience. So you can even reach people that don't have yet the right type of hardware capabilities and have them use your service in a somewhat degraded but still very much usable fashion. And so, yeah, this has plenty of applications. We still have a lot to do, but very recently, for instance, the group provided support for hand tracking in virtual reality, which means that you no longer have to use one of these controllers. You can use your hand to interact with content built on WebXR. Marie-Claire, could you maybe put the link to the WebXR demo that we built we got for TPAC? I think that's a good illustration of what is possible and what will be soon possible. And that's, the current focus, making that work really well. But if you start mixing this again with, for instance, some of the remote capabilities enabled by RTC, then you can really get into like an immersive communication space where even though you're physically distant, you may feel physically very close by because you're actually immersed in a single space, even if you're thousands of kilometers away. We're not there yet, but that's definitely part of the vision we are aiming for.
Okay, good. Is Marie-Claire, are you showing something or typing some links? So I let Marie-Claire. Are you sharing some links? Okay, you're muted actually.
Yes, done.
Done. Okay. All right. Great. All right. So I know that it's now pretty late over in France, so I got to stop. I think that this gives me a lot of reasons to invite two of you back again soon to talk with us. And a very interesting conversation, and maybe we can dedicate more on certain topics. And I know that it's very late. It's late in France over there, and I can't imagine speaking French at this like at I think that it's 6:30 now over there, right? Yeah. Speaking French at 6:30 p.m. I don't think that I will speak as well as you as in English. So I really want to say, I want to give a clap, a virtual clap to all of you.
Thank you, Rachel, for inviting us. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
really fantastic, right? I also want to, before we close this webinar, I just want to remind the webinar attendees and everybody in YouTube watching this live that the information will be populated on our website, all the training information, all the wonderful technical information that Dom and Marie-Claire have shared will be all available. So again, thank you for everybody's participation in this wonderful question. Thank you so much. All right. So I want to wish a bonsoir over there in France, and also start our morning, and it's already going to be in the afternoon for the rest of the attendees here. So thank you very much. And I also got one more announcement, forgot. The next 2 days, there are fantastic events on startup community, and we actually invited two CEOs from startup companies who are working on privacy and also identity issues. Very interesting to see the startup process, how they start up and they are also W3C member companies. So welcome everybody to join either on the live stream or sign up on the public link. I will promote it in the social channel once more. And then Thursday, we have a big event, which is the Symposium X. We are going MAD. It's a MAD tech, which is marketing and advertising technology. So just think that going mad, on Thursday. And we have New York Times, Washington Post, and also from Cafe Media, actually the largest advertising platform for publisher in the world, to speak. Also, we have also W3C leaders and in this space, Wendy Salsa and also Alan Bird are all coming to speak. So please join us on Thursday, and you can register through the public link, and I will promote it once more, remind everybody to register in the social channel. Thank you so much for everybody's participation. So I shall end here. Thank you so much, and bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.